So let's start with the first step, curiosity. I have to say, why is curiosity the first step? I'm a little bit confused here. Camilla, can we start with you?
We start with curiosity because it really is the first stage of any product development or any new idea development. It is the infancy stage of any new idea. And if you think of infancy, the beginning of something, you kind of think back to children. And children are curious by nature. They want to learn new things, they want to explore, they have new words to learn, new food to taste. And if you put yourself in the kind of the world of these children or in this infancy stage, it's about exploring and understanding and learning. And this is where ideas come up. Kids will taste new foods, they will touch, they will smell, they will poke at, they will pull apart, pull back together. That's what curiosity is about. So when it comes to new product development, curiosity is the first stage for us because it's about asking these relentless questions and knowing your consumers deeply to understand what they need or what they want, and not just what we can build in our manufacturing plants.
So then, define for me, what exactly is curiosity? How do you define it? What is it?
So curiosity, in essence, is the desire to learn and want to know more.
What would be sort of the key summaries that would help us to describe what is curiosity for that?
Well, curiosity, we heard in the video, is kind of like the spark behind all great ideas. It has to start somewhere, and by being curious, it helps you get these ideas out there and actually see the ideas and be observant of the ideas. He also stated, the future belongs to the curious, because by asking questions, it's more important that you ask and not necessarily what you're asking at this point, that you just ask. And it really is why we start with curiosities, to get those ideas on the table.
So then why is curiosity important for developing new products?
So by being curious, it actually opens our minds and allows us to be observant of ideas when they come our way. So by having an open mind and a new idea is presented, your mind is more aware of it and is more welcome to it. Versus not being curious and you kind of close off your mind, a lot of great ideas will pass right by you. It also allows you to release kind of your inner child and not have these predetermined expectations. And it allows you to just think freely and ask those questions and not be restricted by basically what we can make in our plants, but more on what our consumers want and what they need and finding ways that we can produce it for them. By being curious, you're also more productive because you don't just stop at that one kind of layer and one question, one idea. It makes you go deeper and further down and keep asking, so what, and how can we, and when can we? It just keeps getting further down.
So you keep peeling back that onion skin.
That's right. We just keep peeling back.
So then in the work environment, how does a company then foster a curious environment such that people are doing these things that you're telling me? What happens? How do you make an environment supportive of a curious nature?
I kind of had the same question. Can I go to school and take a course on curiosity, or are people born with it?
Well, the way we foster it is we really welcome it and we really encourage people to be curious. It's very natural in the environment, and it's natural because of some of the things we do. Some things are planned, and some things just kind of happen. Some examples would be like we frequently share what we see out in market. We frequently share ideas with each other, or we frequently share a video. The video that I shared with you guys today was something that was shared via email within the marketing department. I thought this is a great video that everyone should see, and it sparks the curiosity. So just frequent sharing, like don't be afraid to send an email to someone about something you've seen. And sometimes the content of the email would just say, enjoy. As simple as that. Other things we do is consumer connections, where we can get close with your consumer. You can watch them in their environment, watch them in their environment, or talk to them, or read their magazines, or just be where they are and observe what they're doing and get closer to our consumers.
So when you say be in their environment, do you actually go into their homes?
In some cases, we will go into their homes and sit down and talk to them or have a meal with them or understand why they're eating certain foods versus other foods. Another thing we do is, although curiosity is very natural and not very much encouraged within our organization. Sometimes you do have to step away from your daily routine, and we actually have scheduled intellectual curiosity days. And it's a day that we block off on our calendars, and if there's a new topic you want to learn about, or if you have an interest in a certain area, we'll bring in experts to help us understand it and be curious about it and ask the questions about it. Another thing we do is trend spotting. So just trying to identify where the future is going and what opportunities could possibly be there for us. When you think of trend spotting, the one quote that always gets kind of tossed around in our office is a Wayne Gretzky quote. And Wayne Gretzky always said, you know, you don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where the puck is going. So those are some of the things we do. We play war games, we do brainstorming sessions, we have creative inspiration sessions where we'll watch a reel of advertising of award-winning TV ads, and just to get inspired and just be curious about what else is out there.
So listening to all of this curiosity, what's happening in the company and in the marketing department, sort of exploring everything, my understanding and talking with both of you backstage is all of this curiosity led to a question. And that's how the process happens, I understand. And the question that came up was, do active Canadians have what they need from their breakfast cereal? And so all this curiosity was going on. That was the question. And so when that question came over to you, Loretta, and you were part of the nutrition team, how did you become curious about the question, and how was nutrition science involved in that curious moment?
Thanks, Chris. Well, it's a critical point. Now the science question comes in because we need to ensure there's a solid foundation in the science before taking the idea any farther. We need to have that solid science foundation. And science is built on the premise of asking questions. By nature, science is curious. So we were curious about all kinds of things. We were curious about, you know, what is the appropriate nutrition for active Canadians? What are the energy, hydration, electrolyte needs of physical activity, ranging from your active, generally active Canadian to your high-performance athlete? And things like, well, what about nutrient concept? What about what's with this whole idea? And is there a way that we could perhaps provide a more nutrient-dense food choice to active Canadians to help meet their needs instead of perhaps the more high-performance bars and shakes? So it's almost like every time we asked one question, we got 5 more questions. So a very, very curious process indeed. And to find our answers, we went to the credible science-based, acknowledged resources. We asked, what is the Institute of Medicine saying? What is Dietitians of Canada saying? At the time, it's when they came out with their sports nutrition position paper. What is the Coaching Association of Canada saying? And here's a bit of what we found out. When we're looking at sports nutrition, certainly the macronutrients are important. There's some increase in protein needs if you undergo regular high-intensity training or endurance training. Carbohydrate needs are important, both to top up your glycogen stores, to replenish your stores after exercise. Not to forget about the micronutrients, certainly in some areas of sports nutrition when athletes are on specific or restricted diets, we need to think of their micronutrients, iron. And then also timing is important. It depends to ensure that you have the proper nutrition both before, during, and after your exercise and the type of exercise. So it's a real kind of questioning and curious process. We find the answers, and then not to forget that science always evolves. So we're continuously asking the question, and where is the science headed, so we can stay on top of it.
This is really interesting because I'm thinking for Camilla from the marketing group, they're just coming up with a question and they probably think they can give it to nutrition and there's one answer. And then Camilla, you just heard all the questions that Loretta had to do, and then one question led to another question. It's really interesting how marketing had to understand that, whoa, I asked one question, I got 20 more.
Right.
And it really helps us to dig deeper into the area, so we make sure that we have all of the information we need.
Right. Well, with all of those questions in the curious stage, I'm just wondering if we go out to Dr. Chris in our audience, do we have any questions on this whole curiosity phase from anyone out in the audience, Chris?
I do. I have a question here for Camila. Can you clarify the difference between a trend and a fad?
A trend and a fad. That's interesting because everybody says, "Oh yeah, this is on trend." But are they the same or are they different?
That's a really good question. It's a question that's actually asked quite frequently. In very kind of simple terms, a fad is something that is very short-lived. It's kind of here today, gone tomorrow. For example, orange is in this year for this season. But next year in this season, the orange is probably not the same fashion trend that we're following. Versus a trend. A trend is something that is actually much more long-lasting. It's not here today, gone tomorrow. And a trend is something that impacts multiple areas of life or multiple areas of culture beyond just, say, fashion, for example. An example of a trend, a current trend right now, is naturality. So if you think of the trend naturality and being natural, it impacts your life in multiple different ways, and you can see examples of it in real life. So if we use fashion as an example, more and more people are going back to yoga pants and wearing yoga pants not just for yoga, but out into the regular street. So it's much more natural clothing. If you think of food, for example, it's much more real food and organic food and natural food and less processed food. That's all about the naturality trend. House and home, another example would be people are getting into gardening. Even in the small backyards, you'll see the herb gardens or a vegetable garden being grown. If you live in an urban center, it's not stopping you from having a garden in your home. So trend is much more long-lasting over multiple years, and it impacts multiple parts of your life, not just one thing.
So I'm just thinking a company would rather invest in a trend than a fad because the trend is going to outlast the fad.
That's right.
And certainly, I think in the nutrition world, we could have an example as well. Would a fad be something like, the latest fad diet, which is, the grapefruit diet or what the next celebrity is eating for the month, and that would be your diet fad, as opposed to the trend where consumers are interested in leading a healthy lifestyle and managing their weight is part of that healthy lifestyle trend, and the diet of the month is the fad diet.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so now that we've, actually, Chris, do we have any more questions at all before we go on?
I do. I have another question.
Oh, okay.
What if, hypothetically, there was no science to support a marketing initiative?
Okay, that's interesting. So, Loretta, marketing comes to you and say, we want to do this, and then you look at the science, and what if you can't support it? What do you do?
Well, that's a good question, and it's again why we're involved right from the get-go, right from the upfront. So marketing could come to us with the question, and we'll try to look for the science. But if it's not there, we might need to dig deeper, look for more science, tweak the question a little bit, or even we might then give a little bit of direction to marketing and say, hey, have you thought of looking at it this way? And then I ask the question to marketing, what is the consumer thinking in this area? So again, it's an upfront, iterative process and to try to get the answers.
Working very closely together. That's interesting. I like it when you ask marketing the questions. That always sounds good.